All right. Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to continue to monitor the waiting room while we get started. But if you would just to pop over in the chat box and let me know that you can hear and see me, that would be fantastic. All right. Today's webinar is being recorded, so we will dive into the content here. Awesome. Thanks for letting me know, Trisha, that you can hear and see me. Yeah, we're going to dive into the content, and then we will, definitely transition into any sort of like ask me anything type thing towards the end of the show as time allows. So I don't want you holding on to your questions at all. Make sure you put them in the chat box, and I will answer those in the flow of the presentation and then clean up any questions towards the end. All right, so let's dive in here. So this is part of, hold on, of my How to Build a Cash Flowing Real Estate Business of Your Dreams series. And I built this series for you if you've tried to buy real estate before and got stuck in analysis paralysis, lost your confidence. Maybe you've invested in a few rentals before and hit a ceiling of growth, or maybe you're just overwhelmed by all the information out there. If any of those situations apply to you, you're in the right place, because what we are going to tackle through this webinar series applies to anybody, whether you've purchased real estate before or if you have several rentals under your belt. Okay, so all these principles apply to you. Okay, so let's motor on here. And some of the people here today know me already. Some people we have yet to meet, but this is me and my crazy crew. This photo was taken about a year ago. My family and I, we were standing on top of the Coba Pyramid in Mexico. But this photo illustrates exactly why I invest in real estate, especially buy and hold rental real estate. You see, I started off fix and flipping and house hacking back in 2002, and was quite successful at it. However, I didn't have cash flow. I didn't have that means in order to cover my expenses on a monthly basis. And when my husband and I got together, he joined me on my real estate house hacking and flipping adventures. And it took us a while to really put our finger on what we were missing in our financial plan. And that was cash flow and stability. I know people say cash is king. That's great. I've been in the situation where you have cash, but it's really, for me, cash flow is king. It allows me to be able to take trips like this with my family, knowing that my life expenses are being covered by my rental real estate. So, and transitioning forward where I am today, this is me. Hi, guys. I'm now a partner in over $500 million of real estate, both residential and self-storage, and an assisted living project. My husband and I have done several flipping projects, but really none of this was possible until we really figured out how to get those first few properties under our belt that were cash flowing, but also how could we reposition the equity out of them. Really, if I could build a pyramid out of this, that partnership piece would be the top of the pyramid, and the base, the foundation, is getting that solid portfolio of properties that help cover your basic needs. And we did this all while working, wife, mom, and taking care of family members. So you can do this too. All right. So you guys could be anywhere right now. You guys are spending your number one most important resource, which is your time, non-renewable resource, your time, and you're spending it here with me. So what makes what I'm going to share today so different? Well, you see, after doing this for 18 years, I've discovered a few things. Okay, some universal truths, if you will. One, if you're going to invest, and it doesn't have to be in real estate, know that I just said invest. You have to have an investing roadmap, okay? And I have created a plan that works for me, but also works for other people, that help them reach financial independence in a fraction of the time than they could if they didn't have that financial investing plan. You also have to have the formula to have simple, repeatable systems and the team to help you execute these systems. Because there's nothing worse than figuring out, building a rental real estate portfolio, making that switch, and then realizing you're doing everything yourself, right? That's the definition of a job, right? The key point here is to learn how to move from employment to a business to the other side of the cash flow quadrant to business or investor. That's where true financial and time freedom is on that other side of the quadrant. And also, over the course of my 18 years of investing, I learned how to use other people's money in order to accelerate my wealth. Okay. And this isn't like a win-lose situation. This is creating win-win situations for my investors. So what are my results? Well, yeah, there's the financial results, but the true result is I have 100% choice in how I spend my time. To me, that is freedom. All right. So again, over the course of these webinar series, I'm hoping to kind of clue you guys into a few secrets on how you can achieve this for yourself. All right, so today we're going to cover the 4 tenets of conservative investing. Okay, I didn't just, I know I ran out of space typing in the words here, but really you need to put an arrow here and put conservative investing. So what are they? Well, let's start off. My number 1 rule of thumb when I'm looking to invest in anything, and this applies to my investing roadmap, guys, right? We've been, if you've been paying attention to the webinar, or excuse me, the emails since the beginning of the year, we've been talking about like, how do you build this investing roadmap? Well, you have to understand these 4 tenets first, okay? And certainly there are investors out there that do not incorporate all 4 of these investing tenets into their roadmap. And there are holes, and you'll see where the holes come in. But for me, number 1, capital preservation. This is Warren Buffett's number 1 rule. Don't lose money. You know what rule number 2 is? Warren Buffett's rule number 2 is? See rule number 1, all right? So really capital preservation, whatever investment we go into, we have to understand all the different ways that we can mitigate our risk and protect our capital, right? It's fine to go into an investment, and understand that you may or may not make money. I mean, I would challenge whether that's, gives you a smooth ride to financial independence, but really understanding how it applies to your investment strategy and making sure that you're preserving your capital. Okay. So the who, what, when, where, why questions and how, right? I don't know, my daughter is in 3rd grade right now. She's going through 3rd grade science. So everything right now in our house has to go through the who, what, when, where, why, and how questions. But this actually applies to your investment strategy, right? But I want you to think of them in this order. So when you're looking at an investment strategy, any deal, you want to understand, does it apply to your what? What is your investment strategy, right? Is it a BRRRR? Is it a flip? Is it a development deal? Is it buy and hold? Okay. What is this strategy? When are you going to get access back to your capital? Right? Very important, right? You can definitely invest in so many deals, but if you don't get your capital back for 30 years and there's no other way to get your capital out of the project, that's, you're not really preserving your capital. You gave it to somebody else. You want to understand the where, right? Location, 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 right? Just because I can have a great deal that gives me my capital back in 5 years, but if it's in an unsteady market, that's not protecting my capital, right? Then who's going to manage that capital? Is it going to be you? Is it going to be a property manager? Is it going to be an operator? Okay. What are their qualifications? What makes them a business operator? And are they successful? Okay. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are starting, businesses right now, and they're trying to raise investor capital, and they have no background in business, and especially no background in a successful business. That is not a smart move to preserve your capital. That's where that operator has to kind of lure you in with the returns and stuff like that. Okay. And then how? What are the fundamentals of the project, right? So oftentimes I see investors skip right to the how. What are the deals? What are the deal numbers, right? But you have to consider all these other questions first before you get into the how and analyzing the deal in order to truly understand how to protect your capital. Now let's flip it. Now we talked about the investment side of things, right? The actual deal. What do you need to answer for the deal to preserve your capital? Well, let's talk about other strategies that you can use to preserve your capital. Okay, so having sufficient reserves, and this goes for your personal life and for your business, your whatever rental real estate you're building. Okay, so for your personal life, I call it your moat. Okay, if you go back to medieval times, you're building the castle, the moat is and that drawbridge are one of the largest defenses of that castle. What is your financial moat? I personally love having at least 6 months of reserves. I would often challenge, if you can get to 12, even better. Okay, there are ways that you can actually invest your reserves to earn return, but you want to make sure that you always have money there that you can access. And I would set aside your deductibles. All right, so that way, if everything, all, heck breaks loose and you have to pay your house deductible, your health deductible, and your car deductible all in 1 year, you're not depleting your 6 month expense reserve. All right, so deductibles I'd collect. Definitely make sure you set aside your health deductible for your family, your car deductible. If you own a primary, set aside the deductible for your primary or your renter policy. Okay, again, you're building your moat. All right, then your business reserves, same thing. All right, setting aside 6 months of reserves for your business reserves, and then also setting aside your deductibles. Now, people challenge me on this, that now you got a lot of cash sitting on the sideline that isn't being deployed. We will talk at a later date and maybe some things that you can entertain in order to deploy this capital. One of the things that I love are short-term notes, okay, backed by a hard asset, and also investing in a cash flowing life insurance policy. So those are just kind of like two little pearls that you can read about and investigate on your own. But there's nothing wrong with having a little bit of cash in the bank just to help you weather any sort of situation. All right, so tenet number 1, capital preservation. Let's move on to tenet number 2, cash flow. You see, I consider this a huge tenet of investing because when I purchase a house or a multifamily apartment complex, I don't want to have to be feeding that property every single month. I know people that invest here in Colorado around where I live that are totally fine having a rental that they have to feed every, $200-300 every month because they think that there's going to be a large payout at the end through appreciation, right? That is operating in the sense of historical performance will predict the future return. Again, not part of the plan when it comes to conservative investing. For me, that investment has to stand alone on its own and produce, not only preserve my cash flow, but preserve my capital, but also preserve my cash flow. And it's not, I noticed I didn't say cash on cash return, right? You guys can have a huge cash on cash return when you underwrite your property, but it can be an infinite return, but you might only be making $50 a month, right? Cash flow, that cash flow will allow you to kind of bob and weave with the market. That's why I aim to have like a couple $100s per door cash flow after all my reserves are being set aside coming in. That way, if I have a vacancy in the wintertime, this has just happened to me. I have a vacancy in the wintertime. A gentleman, had to leave, and it's probably I'm going to have to rent the property $50 below market, but because I have wiggle room in my cash flow, I can do that. All right. So how can you preserve your cash flow? Well, definitely one side of things is making sure you have impeccable underwriting. So your ideal tenant, right? You know what your ideal product is, and you know what your ideal investment criteria are, okay, in your returns. Again, we're thinking both in cash on cash and your cash flow. All right. And then, guys, you notice something here? Having sufficient reserves, both for your business, all right? Because these are your operational reserves. All right, that is again going to keep you from dipping into your own personal expenses to keep your real estate business afloat. All right, and that's what we really want. We want that on so many levels, not only to protect your investment, but so you can operate it as a true operating business and take advantage of all the tax IRS advantages that they give us. All right, okay, third tenet. Okay, now we're getting into what kind of lures people in, the appreciation, the icing on the cake. right? I do want to invest in assets that have a reasonable chance of appreciation. Okay. I like a balanced approach, right? I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket to that rents have to continue going up. I want the market to help me out a little bit as well. So here, how do we help understand how we can actually kind of put all these investing cards in our favor and so we can capture appreciation? Well, number one, we can do proper market research. And there are so many things that go into proper market research, but at a very high level, you can set up a spreadsheet and you're going to want to understand for any market that you're going into, what is the job growth? What is the job diversity? What is the income growth of that market? Or is income going up? Is the population growing? Do people want to actually move to that area? Are there more tenants for you to rent to? Is housing affordable? Okay, that can go both ways. Not only for you, so you can pick up houses to rent to other renters, but so you can apologies. That way that the tenants actually want to kind of move to that area. There might be actually a chance for them at some point in time to move into a house. You also want to check for renter affordability. Okay, there are some markets, East Coast, West Coast markets that their rents are like $3,000, $4,000 a month. That's hard on a starter salary. I remember when my cousin, she moved to New York City. This is probably 15 years ago. She moved into a 3-bedroom flat. Her portion of the rent alone was $3,000, and her parents had to co-sign on that. It was just nuts. Okay, but so you want to take into account renter affordability. All right, next point, landlord-tenant laws. This year has shown us that landlord-tenant laws can turn on a dime. All right, so you want to make sure you're in areas, again, if you want to protect your investment, that you're in areas that favor business. All right, you can always choose how you work with your tenant. Right, but for you to have, lord of the land, I suggest, my personal preference is to invest in areas that allow me to be the lord of my land and work with my tenants how I see fit. All right. And then also taxes, right? This too can help drive appreciation. If you're in an area where taxes are extremely high, that's going to slow growth. People can't afford as much house. All right. So what are the tax structures of that area? All right. The other thing that helps play into appreciation a little bit is understanding if you're going to do any sort of rehabbing or flipping, what is your construction? Okay. And so if you're buying a property below value, you want to understand just how much you can force that appreciation on the property. All right. So market research is going to help you understand what the market's going to allow you to do. The construction, being dialed in on your construction budget, is going to allow you to force appreciation. So when we look at that construction budget, definitely make sure that you're getting a property inspection. All right. I don't know any reason at all for somebody to waive their inspection. It's generally pretty, in most markets, pretty easy to get an inspection, within 72 hours on a property. What's a little harder is that appraisal. Okay, and even if you don't use lending, I always suggest that you get an appraisal on the property for as is, what it is worth today with no rehab done to it, and then also a subject to, meaning what will it be after you complete your construction. Okay, we also call that we equate that to the after repair value on the property. Right? That way, those two pieces of information up front, and again, can help control that appreciation lever on your investment strategy. All right, guys, we got one more. Let's dive in. Tax benefits. This is usually much higher on people's list, but I did put these in a specific order. I'm looking for capital preservation first, cash flow second, all right, appreciation third, and then tax benefits. So on the tax benefits, you can look for projects that are straight line depreciation or have bonus depreciation, or, I'm not a CPA, maybe there's a finagling way that you can take both, but on straight line depreciation is like you're closing on a buy and hold investment and you are depreciating your basis in that investment over 27.5 years. for residential real estate. You're just, maybe if it's a $100,000 property, maybe you're taking $3,600 annually. This helps keep your cash flow tax-free. Now, if you're doing any sort of rehab right now, you can take a bonus depreciation. All right. In the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, bonus depreciation is now 100%, meaning if you do any sort of rehab on that property, you can depreciate that 100% in the first year. Before that, it was bonus depreciation. We still had it. It was at 50%. So could that move this year with the new administration? Yeah, sure. But still, that is still something to take a look at when you look at tax benefits. And then also, when you go to sell, you want to make sure that you're taking a look at the 1031 exchange, okay? And I consider this like a core tenet of investing is how can I continue to defer taxes on my capital gains and defer any sort of depreciation recapture? Because remember, what the IRS giveth over here in depreciation, if you don't stay invested in real estate when you sell, they will take it away. So this kind of goes back to a philosophy that we hear a lot of people tout in rental real estate or real estate in general, which is buy the asset, borrow against it, and take as much equity as you can out of it, and then die. That way it goes on to your heirs and they get a step up in basis. So, and how you continue to exchange is during that time period and level up your investments is utilizing the 1031 exchange. All right. So all of these pieces, all of these 4 core tenets, capital preservation, cash flow, appreciation, and tax benefits, okay, you have to understand how these are going to feed into your investing roadmap. All right. Last week, we covered the financial roadmap. We need to understand these 4 tenets first before we can start building that investing roadmap. And then just at a very high level, we'll get into this in future videos. Your investing roadmap then is going to take into account your strategy, your investment strategy, the time you can put into it, the market of which you're going to invest in, the cash flow that you can pull down on each project, your underwriting criteria as well. All right. So now you can understand how these things actually plug into your investing roadmap. All right. So I'm going to take a big breath here. If you guys have any questions, pop on over to the chat box. I would love to know. And while you guys are writing out your questions, just wanted to, touch base with you. If you guys ever want help with this, I do have a program that, you can certainly take advantage of. Trisha here, she's in the program. Welcome, Trisha. But it is the Investor Accelerator program. And so just a quick little peek on who this is for. It's for anybody just starting out in real estate, doing this on the side. Maybe you've never done a deal yet, or maybe you have several deals on your belt, doing this a little bit more for full time, and you have several deals and need to figure out how to scale. Here's a quick snapshot on what you can get in the Investor Accelerator. And if you're interested in talking further about it, this has like an educational component, a community-driven component. We do office hours. We meet twice a month talking about business strategy, expert sessions to help you expand your investing knowledge and your networking. Any tool that I have developed for my business goes into this program. And even you and I will sit down and talk one-on-one about your investment strategy. And I share all of my deal finders, all of my providers in this program, and including my exact vision and strategy process and how I get things done day to day, because sometimes that's one of the hardest things to do. And if you're interested in all in this program, you can visit this website and check it out. Go to ashwealth.com/apply, and we can chat on the phone and make sure it's a good fit for you. So guys, thank you so much for joining today. If you have questions, I would love to answer those. Make sure you jump over to the chat box. We will take those in order. If you need to bug out, thank you so much for investing in yourself and spending your most precious resource with me, which is your time.